Hi, and welcome back to the North Andover Journal, where we bring you all the latest North Andover news, events, and happenings. I'm Dom Nagar, and today we're doing a summer recap, putting together all of our recent journal updates in case you missed them. Come along for a look around town. I love history, and I just recently learned that during the Salem witch trials, as many as 45 people were jailed for witchcraft here in what was Andover Village, which is more than in any other community. These folks have never been properly memorialized, but a class of students at North Andover Middle School has taken it upon themselves to change this. They spent last year designing and raising money for a monument here in town. Let's hear their story.
So this year, my students and I worked on designing a memorial for the accused witches from the Salem witch trials from the North Andover area. One of the big parts of this class is something called a civic action project. The kids have to take on a project where they are actually working in their community, whichever community they choose, to take some sort of action to bring about improvement, to bring about change, to recognize that their voices matter.
See, in North Andover, we did have a place in the Salem witch trials, but they're called the Salem witch trials because that's where the county courthouse was. But here in Andover, we had 45 people jailed under accusations for witchcraft, far more than Salem did. And here on the corner of Bradford and Barker Street in North Andover, Massachusetts, we have an enduring urban legend. The local high school students have been telling a legend about Albino Road for decades now, and here's how it goes. Back in 1692, around the same time as the witch trials were occurring, a family, not the Barkers, but some tenants of the Barkers themselves, had two children, twins, who were born albino. Some of the locals from Andover saw the two teen boys and were suspicious that the family was dabbling in witchcraft because they had these two albino twins. And the story goes that the townspeople, with their reverend, came here to where the family's house was and burned them out of it, burnt down their house, attacked the family, and in the midst of that, people were killed. Either the boys had drowned in the pond, or the boys were killed by the fire with their parents in the house. And now all of the high school students say that when you walk here on Albino Road at night, that you can see the red eyes and the dashing white blotches of those albino teenagers as they run across the road. What's real and what's not? Obviously, this is an urban legend. There are no recorded tenants on that Barker land, and through birth records, we can see that there was no one registered as albino twins born around that time. But what is real is the way that the townspeople have previously treated difference among us. Not just difference, but suspicion of difference. Here in town, we're ready to memorialize those who were wrongfully accused of witchcraft.
We did the background research on the witch trials, and then we actually had a real architect give us some ideas on how to move forward with design, what kind of things to think about. And I actually taped off a 10 by 10 area in the back of the class, and they worked on designing their monuments. And we did some research on what monuments, like in Salem and Danvers, but even like Byfield and Amesbury and that kind of thing, what did their monuments look like? What did they say? Who did they include? And then the kids designed their own. And they were very, very thoughtful about it. And so the top designs were then sent off to a very helpful and generous company, a monument company, who started to work with us to spec out the designs and kind of talk to us about cost and that sort of thing. And kids I took them on a video field trip of the different locations we were thinking about. And they had to come up with their own proposals. And then we brought it to the Historical Society, who was very excited and supportive of the kids' work. And we are working on doing the approvals for location, fundraising. The kids started the fundraising. They did, Stachy's was wonderful and allowed us to do one of their fundraisers this year before the kids left. And they did a tremendous job getting word out and getting people to support that. But obviously, a monument's kind of expensive. And the group, the design that they chose was the most expensive one. So they're interacting and learning how government worked at the state level, which was really important. And that became sort of the driving force behind it for me. Obviously, we talked about lessons in terms of, well, what do we learn from this? We talked about justice. We talked about bullying, obviously an 8th grade topic. And how do you stand up for those who don't have a voice?
In recounting this urban legend and trying to make things clear that, yes, indeed, it is an urban legend, that no record of albino twins being born in the area exists, that we can take a look and say, well, what makes this scary? And what is intended to be scary isn't just that they were ghosts, that you might encounter them today, but they're particular ghosts. They're albino. They are teenagers who were already pushed outside of the fringes. Their parents already kept them away from the town.
And so my goal was to try to make it relevant to their world. Where else are we seeing people being somewhat persecuted or treated differently based on what these kids learn as their identity? They start to understand that it's a theme of an issue as opposed to just a then and now. So there is that sense, and a lot of the kids were able to understand the idea of justice, doing something for people who can't stand up for themselves. This was wrong at the time. We can fix that. So, and we can recognize that. You can't ignore history. It may not be how we want it to look, but we have to learn from it. We have to accept it as it was. I was trying to get them to understand, like with this monument, like you could be bringing your grandkids to this and saying, we did this in 8th grade. You know, so it's their legacy, it's their connection to the town, and that is really important to me. But obviously also, it's the bigger lessons. Yes, obviously this is a way of teaching kids how to interact, whether it's local, state, or federal government, how you interact with government, how you use your voice when something matters to you, when you feel like you have a cause that you need to take up. How do you approach it? What kinds of things do you need to do to get something done? And I think all of that combined, it's beyond what the kids realize they're taking in. Keep your eyes and ears open for fundraising in the fall, or reach out actually to me through the school email or the Historical Society. We're all involved. We're partnering for this, so you know, that's the best way to do things at this point. And I have to say, I mean, the town overall up to this point has been so supportive and excited about this. And so I can't appreciate the support enough.
Everyone loves summer camp. Arts and crafts, games, boats, what's not to love? Communities Together, a local organization, runs a summer and after-school program that's totally free, so every kid can have a great summer and maybe become a great artist. Let's take a look at how they raise the money and how you can help.
Communities Together was founded in 1947 as the Greater Lawrence Council of Churches. It is a collaboration of Protestant and Catholic churches in the Greater Lawrence area in the Merrimack Valley. Our biggest program that we have is Manos Felices, which is an after-school program that we provide for free for the residents of 2 separate housing authorities in Lawrence. And we also provide a summer program. I believe around 36 years ago, roughly, one of our first Manos Felices locations was initiated where there were people who would come and volunteer, and they thought that there was a need for children to have a safe space to play and to kind of get together and help have homework assistance, just activities and field trips. And then the Housing Authority was kind enough to provide us a space so that we could hold the program year-round. And it's really been great to have people who were raised in the program grow up and then become part of the staff at the programs. So it's a full circle moment. You know, we need funds to do a lot of the good work that we're doing. We're hoping that we are going to be one of the organizations that can continue. We're very fortunate that we were able to get through the pandemic where a lot of nonprofits weren't able to. So we just want to continue doing the good work that, like I said, has been started before us, and we want to continue and build upon that and just putting the unity in community. The Savers Fundraiser is one of our fundraisers that we hold every year. This is the second year we've been able to hold it. We raise funds for our organization and for our programs and services that we provide. A lot of the stuff will go get weighed, and we will go drop it off at the Savers location that we are assigned, and we will be cut a donation check based off of each individual item. I believe that there's 3 categories: soft goods, hard goods, and media. And based off of each category, we'll get a certain percentage back for the weight of all of the donations. The donation money will go to all of the programs, services, and events that Communities Together provides. Any little bit counts, whether it's donating things, whether it's going to your local church and helping out with one of the drives that we have. We are really happy with the turnout this year. We heavily advertise, and the residents of North Andover have really shown up for us. North Andover residents can support us and continue supporting us by helping out whenever we have fundraisers. They can go on our website and they can get more information. They can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Their impact and their contributions to our organization is something that has always left me amazed by the level of generosity.
I've always felt that North Andover is a uniquely collaborative and close-knit community. I was surprised to hear that food insecurity here in town is high and continuing to rise. Then I heard the inspiring story of the People's Food Pantry. Based out of the North Parish, they provide thousands of pounds of food to hundreds of families in need. Let's take a look at what they've been able to accomplish.
So we're here at the North Parish, and the People's Food Pantry is run out of here, and we are here twice a month, and we provide groceries, produce, dry goods, meats, cheeses, that kind of thing, for families to come through and help kind of bridge the gap of food insecurity that we are facing. Food insecurity in North Andover is actually 14%, so we're looking at a little over 4,500 people who qualified as food insecure, and certainly there's more on the fringes of that number. So we serve 400 individuals between 7 and 10:30. So that's a rapid increase. About 3 years ago, we were at, on a busy day, about 150 people. So we have, doubled and almost tripled our numbers, and I really don't see it slowing down. So it's unfortunate, but I do feel blessed that we can be here to help make a difference. The goal here is to provide immediate relief, obviously, on a daily basis. But I think the long-term goal is we can do better as a community, and we can eradicate this. We are a, pretty well-to-do suburb in a community that has funds and money, and how can we make sure that we're caring for one another and being kind and grateful to each other in the community. We're working with the Seacoast Food Hub, which opened up in Salisbury, and we're working with Neighbors in Need, and we're working with all of these folks because we're all trying to tackle food insecurity as a coalition, come at it with more heads and more thought rather than just everybody working in silos doing their individual job. If we work together as a organization and a community, that I think we can help bring that North Andover number down from 14% to a lot lower. We have about 70 volunteers that make this organization work. We just hired our first employee as a pantry manager who runs day-to-day operations, but everyone else is volunteer run. Some volunteers have been here for 25 years, so they stay because they know that it makes a difference. They're seeing the impact, they care for one another. People bring in food for someone's dog. Somebody walked out with a birthday cake today. Like, it's a personal connection. So it's community within a community right here. These 70 volunteers come because they love what they do, they love making a difference, they love caring for the people. And then we were caring for the greater community where I raised my kids. It didn't seem right that right in my own backyard there were people who couldn't eat and couldn't afford food. If people are in need and are reaching out to us for food, we're going to try to provide that support. The hours are 7 to 10:30. It's a little busy at 7. I get here about 6:15 in the morning and there's about 60 people waiting outside. So if it's your first time, you might not want to come first thing in the morning, but you come around 8 or 8:30, come through the doors. There's a couple of young ladies downstairs that get you registered pretty quick. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and then you're off and running. You bring a bag. We ask people to bring a bag or a box or whatever you want to carry your food out with, just like you would at the grocery store. And then you shop and you can leave with groceries that day. To be involved as a resident of the Merrimack Valley or North Andover in particular, the best way to go is to our website. And there's some information there that you can fill out and say you'd like to be a volunteer. Obviously, funds are always important. You saw some of the beautiful produce that we have out there, and that is something we purchase. So that's important, and that's really where the money goes. It goes directly to make an impact on the meals that come out of the place. So that's always an option to donate, and we need bodies, able bodies. Somebody has to go to Stop and Shop and get 30 banana boxes full of food that might be short dated and bring it to us so that we can distribute it. And somebody else needs to go, you saw the truck unloading. So all of that stuff needs to happen. We always need all those folks working together to make a difference here. So it's a really tangible way to make a difference in your own community and see the results.
The farmers market is a staple of summer in North Andover, and this year it's in a new location. We went over to their new setup behind Town Hall and the old Senior Center to see how organizers and vendors are taking advantage of this new, bigger space.
Well, today, as in every Sunday this summer, you are at the North Andover Farmers Market. We are a volunteer group. We put together this market and we run it June to usually October. This year we're ending right at the end of September. It's just a collection of local vendors and local food vendors and a little bit of a smattering of other things. We used to be on First Street. Now we are headquartered in the old Senior Center, which is behind us, and we have their parking lots to use, which has been amazing. I think the layout is actually more attractive. It's not just in one line. It's set out more like you see other farmers markets. So it's when the visual of it is better, and it's a little bit larger. We can put more tents in. We actually have more spaces for people to just sit, particularly if the market is a little smaller. We leave those spaces open for people to just hang out if they wanted to sit and drink their amazing lemonade that they just bought. So yes, there's more opportunity. One thing that we did add is a children's activity center tent, and it's just a little space where we bought some toys. We have a Jenga. We have one of those little 4 score, it's a big one, so that people with children can sit there for a few minutes and give them a distraction. It's actually a space for them under a tent with tables and chairs. We're able to put the music in a place that's just a little bit away from the vendors, so it doesn't interfere with them as much, but still everyone can enjoy it. So definitely the space has been more accommodating for us to do different and new things.
It is convenient, like kind of the walkthrough with like the flow instead of just like the 2 lines. I feel like we're all a lot closer together.
We have been here, Luna May Creations has been here for at least the last 2 to 3 seasons, I believe. So we're veterans to the farmers market here in North Andover. So I do like how it's a lot more open. It's not like down an alley, and I like the remote little area. It's kind of tucked in here.
Oh, it's a great crowd of people. Everybody's so friendly. I actually really like the new location, even though I wasn't at the other one before, but I feel like this location is nice and homey, and it just, everybody, again, it's really kind, really nice, and it's just a great environment.
I like it because there's not a lot of cars and a lot of going back and forth with the traffic. Nobody has to cross streets or anything like that. It's more spread out, and there's shade.
I think that it's a little bit tougher for the vendors to actually get their merchandise to their booth, so it's a little bit of a getting used to something new. It's a little bit more of a walk. for some people because it's just more difficult to drive around. The other spot was a little bit easier. So we try to help out as best we can, accommodate the folks that have a lot to carry, and we have a lot of volunteers. So I don't think the accessibility has changed at all. As a matter of fact, there's probably more parking because there's a lot of parking on Main Street on a Sunday. It's a little quieter there, and we do have a whole parking lot here. So it's been just a great success this year. We had no idea in the move how it would work out because we're off the street. But people just really want to come to farmers markets, and we've tried really hard to advertise. We have more spaces. It's only gotten better week to week as far as people actually attending. The biggest thing is for the businesses that are here, people to know that they're here. Our mission is the same today as it was in 2017. We want to bring people into the downtown of North Andover.
You might remember Savannah, a young girl in North Andover who captured the town's attention and support during her battle with cancer and her recovery from a leg amputation last year. Savannah's been insistent that her prosthetic leg won't stop her from staying active, so we checked in on her to see how she's getting back into the sport she loves and how North Andover came together to support her in her time of need.
Before I had the amputation, I was a gymnast, a soccer player, and I played a little bit of basketball. I was 12 years old when I first started using my first prosthetic.
We've had a lot of community support, both for her amputation and for her being a cancer survivor.
She reminded me a lot of myself, and that, something terrible had happened to her, but at the same time, she was just a kid, and no, she wasn't ready to move on, but she was like, hey, yeah, I have this prosthetic leg now, and I don't have my leg now, but I'm still going to be the same person. That was me, not too long ago.
It started off as what I thought was a gymnastics injury. I thought she hurt herself and had a swollen ankle, and it was a tumor. Life just completely blew up. So Savannah had been sick for a year, and she went through multiple surgeries to try to save her limb. We ended up getting a second opinion, and Savannah made the very difficult but brave decision to have the amputation.
Right before my amputation, my friend Brooke Brown, she made this thing of March 28th, the day before Savannah's amputation, wear purple to represent her. And then we don't tell Savannah. I ended up finding out because it got sent to 3 group chats I was in, and then but no one realized that, and then it ended up being a whole town thing. It was just for the 6th graders, but it ended up being the whole middle school, all the elementary schools, the high school, the whole town, basically wore purple for me.
And friends of ours, the Wilsons, they made bracelets, and I think they wanted to be a little different. They made it say, "We love Savannah," and they were purple. And I had no idea what was going on. Since she had been on soccer since she was in kindergarten, that year her grade started the travel team. And all of the travel teams had white headbands that said in purple, "We love Savannah," and they wore them to all their games.
The March 28th night, the A-team girls soccer team had a soccer game, and they wore purple jerseys, and they made purple cancer ribbons with eye black for to represent me, and I think they ended up winning.
A friend of hers designed stickers that said, "I'm in my strong era," because they all like Taylor Swift. And when I was driving to work down 125, we were driving to Mass General down 125, the digital sign down there said, "Wear purple for Savannah." The digital sign by the middle school said it. Once people found out that she was going to have her leg amputated, I think 12 people messaged me and were like, "You need to find Julie Cox."
Tommy Strong originally started just as a movement just to raise support for my family and I while I was in the hospital. I was in a traumatic boat accident when I was 10 years old. The great community in North Andover, they started to organize and fundraise for my family and I. The importance when I was a kid of having that backbone of support from the community. That whole story was one of the main, laid the foundation for the desire to give back. Tommy Strong was able to raise money for my family and I, so I was able to afford a lot of really cool medical equipment, various different prosthetics. The one I'm wearing right now cost around $50,000, and it's just insane. The big misconception out there is definitely that, you have insurance and that will cover things, and that's really not the case at all, where, at least from my experience with insurance and, from everyone else I talked to who'd been through something similar, had prosthetics, is that the insurance companies will only do the bare minimum, and, for me, that was just paying for a wheelchair and literally a peg leg. I loved to play football as a kid, and that was definitely a bigger goal because football obviously requires a lot of running, and it's also a very physical sport, and I'd never really seen kids or really anyone at the time be able to play football with a prosthetic leg. And had my family and Tommy Strong not raised money for me to be able to afford these great cool prosthetics with these computers in it, I would have never been able to play football and lacrosse. And they kind of treat it as a luxury to have that cool medical equipment that really isn't a luxury in it, and it's just kind of a shame to look at the insurance companies that way.
The first time she stood up at the prosthetic office, there was a full mirror and it was her test socket, but she stood up and she had this huge smile on her face. I was like, she's going to be okay.
Sports has always been a huge deal to me because I feel like I've been doing it my entire life. Insurance doesn't really cover for a sports prosthetic leg, so it's been hard with paying for it. If I need a gymnastics leg or a blade or stuff like that.
At the time, we wanted all the legs. We wanted the water leg, we wanted a sports leg, the blade.
There's definitely a lot of things that struck me about Savannah in her case. First and foremost, she's obviously from North Andover. A couple years before her amputation, when she was sick, everyone in North Andover kind of knew about it. And I remember I was working at a summer camp and everyone was wearing these bracelets. I think she's just truly amazing. Just from meeting her for the very first time, I could tell that she isn't someone that's going to dwell on something negative that happened to her. It's just very refreshing to see, someone so young to go through something like that and have that smile on their face.
We had talked about a water leg, which we knew nothing about. And so that, when we were talking to Julie, she was like, all right, we'll take care of the water leg. And I was like, what is she talking about? And then they came over and presented a check. They're the kind of people that I feel like we've known forever. We're hanging on to the donation, and that might be something we use for if we get a gymnastics leg or something.
I feel like learning that he got back to everything that he lost, getting back into his middle school life and doing sports, I feel like that was an inspiration to know if he can do it, I can do it, because we both are the same age when it happened.
Within a month of her getting her leg, she was back at gymnastics. The first day you did
the
a
first
cartwheel.
day I did a cartwheel. It took me a day to do a cartwheel, but it took me 3 weeks to learn how to walk correctly. So I feel like it was easier, because once I knew how to walk, I knew I could just keep going. It makes me feel like I'm back to normal, how I was before I had cancer and the amputation. And it makes me feel like I'm getting my life back.
I would definitely say that I have seen a bigger increase in people just getting out and getting involved and testing the limits with prosthetics and the other medical devices as well, and that's definitely been very cool to watch. My family and I are forever grateful for the movement, the great parents, families who were able to support us while we're in the hospital, and that was kind of the backbone of starting the Tommy Strong Foundation.
Some days are super hard as a mom. Your baby's born and you count the 10 fingers and the 10 toes, and now those toes are in medical waste somewhere. And those days can be very, very hard. But then I look at all she's done and her attitude about things, and I'm like, she's gonna be fine. People are looking for places to donate to research. I always encourage childhood cancer research, because the next round of kids that gets cancer, they shouldn't have to be as sick as she was. I don't think we should still have to watch them lose their hair or lose weight or all the other horrendous side effects that come.
During this whole thing, I'm really glad that I live in a small community, like what my mom was saying, a small town.
I felt very supported and very fortunate to live here.
As you can see, North Andover students and alum are passionate about sports and competition. Maggie Clark is a North Andover alum who drives a race car. We checked in with her to learn a little about what inspired her to get behind the wheel.
During the week, she teaches toddlers, steering their young minds down the right path. During the weekends, she does a totally different kind of steering altogether. Either way, a young North Andover resident is always doing her best to keep her life on track. Her name is Maggie Clark. She drives the number 27 car and is the force behind Magster Motorsports.
Primarily, our home track is Star Speedway in Epping, New Hampshire. When we had our pure stock, we were running Hudson Speedway a couple times. We wanted to try Elite, but I never quite was comfortable enough to get to Lee, but definitely in this slingshot, I really, really want to get to Lee.
As a child, she was already accomplished in her riding skills, but not on four wheels, rather 4 legs.
My mom had me in a backpack on the beach riding a horse when I was 2 months old. And ever since then, even to this day, even though I still drive the race car, and you'll catch me in the barn.
In her early teens, she decided to upgrade her ride, switching from horses to horsepower.
When I was 13, 14 maybe, during the races, I wouldn't just be in the stands eating my ice cream. I'd be down in the pits with them, and they'd make an adjustment, and I'd ask, oh, what does that do? Why would we do that? And my grandfather caught on to it, and then finally I went to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I think I'm ready to get behind the wheel. And my dad, being my dad, was like, oh, I don't know, maybe we should stick to the horses. And I was like, no, I think we should really try racing. And we went up to Star Speedway, I think a couple Wednesday practices, and the first time I was really excited. I had no fear at all. I think it was the adrenaline that was driving me. And then once I got out there, I was like, oh my, this is getting real.
In 2020, at the age of 14, she not only made her way onto the track, but into the winner's circle as well. She won 2 races in the Speedway's Pure Stocks division, and in doing so, won not only the respect of her peers, but the respect of a visiting NASCAR driver as well.
I definitely have to shout out Ryan Preece. He was racing his NASCAR wheel and tour car at Star Speedway a night that we were racing, and I was a little fangirl walking up with my trophy I just won, and he looked at me in my eyes and he says, you got to keep going. You're going somewhere. And, everyone else is like, okay, all right. And then when Ryan Preece said that in my face, I was like, okay, I know I'm something. I'm not just a somebody. And that really meant a lot.
That early success added to the excitement of her life on the racetrack. And while racing does provide more than its share of excitement, there are also inherent dangers, the kind of dangers she experienced firsthand in 2021.
On 9/11 in 2021, I got into a very dangerous wreck, I would say. I was leading the race. I had a car and a half lead going into turn 1, and someone actually went through the infield and spun me out. And I got T-boned 5 or 6 times, front, back, center. And I thought I was okay. I put my window net down to tell the fans and the officials I was okay. And then once I tried to pull myself out, I just felt this pain in my shoulder and my neck that I've never felt before. It actually took 3 or 4 doctors to finally find the tear in my shoulder. So in 2023, May of 23, I underwent shoulder surgery to get my labrum fixed, and they actually shaved some of the socket that your shoulder sits in, so that my shoulder has a deeper socket to sit in.
And as she went on, it became apparent that the challenge wasn't so much the crash itself, but how she responded after the fact.
I got really anxious when I stopped racing. I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I didn't go to school a lot because of it. It really, really bothered me, and I was like, I think I need to get back behind the wheel, Dad. I took the summer off, and I got cleared by the surgeon, and he, being his little girl, he was like, no, you got hurt in that. I'm okay with that. No, we're not gonna I'm okay if we sit out. And my doctor's like, yeah, I think that your race car is your medication, the adrenaline, and your head's always kind of thinking. So not having the race car to fall back on, I think definitely made me anxious. And so I told my dad, I'm like, let me race again, please. I love it. It's my hobby. It's my life. I eat, sleep, race, repeat. And he's like, I don't know, Mags. I don't know. And I'm like, no, let me prove it to you. And so I started racing again, and it definitely was the medicine. After the long road of recovery and PT and everything, got back behind the wheel.
Clark is a 2023 graduate of North Andover High School, and she's had to make some room for that diploma on her trophy shelf, which was already filling up.
I brought up Ryan Preece earlier, and Ryan was always very sweet and honest with me. This is the trophy that he actually signed the night he looked me in my eyes and told me, don't give up, you're going places. This was my first win. It was actually my second time out on the track. I got my very first win, which was very cool. And then my first year racing, I ended up second in points, and I lost by 1 point, which was very tough to swallow. But the more I looked at it, I was like, you know what? It's my first year ever, and I'm second in points. That's pretty awesome to think about.
As it is with different types of race cars, there are different types of fuel for different types of people. And while many people are fueled by their goals and ambition, a good part of Maggie's drive is fueled by family.
I think my uncle noticed I was more interested. I was always trying to learn every bit I could, and he definitely caught on to it fast. This is my grandfather's first ever super modified at Lee USA Speedway in 1966. My boyfriend George, he runs a modified. It's the open-wheeled cars, you see the NASCAR Wheeling Tour and stuff like that.
And what's next on the track for Maggie Clark?
I think my long-term goal is either to end up driving a modified or going back to my family's original roots and driving a 350 super modified. That's a car with the wing on top, the open wheels, the motor on the left. It's always been a dream to run a super modified. I would love to just get into a modified or a super modified.
In the race of life, Maggie Clark has learned how to handle the twists and turns that come her way and stay on track, all the way to the checkered flag.
On the topic of sports, there are some exciting developments happening at my alma mater, North Andover High School. After the recent approval of several major renovations to the baseball field, tennis courts, and upper track, construction is well underway. We checked in with Athletic Director Steve Nugent to tell us about the project and how it'll benefit the community.
So what's going on at North Andover High School this summer? The tennis courts have been completely dismantled and the first coat of binder has been added. They've dug up the entire baseball field, which was all grass. Most of it's going to be turned into a turf field for our baseball, softball teams in the spring. And in the fall, it's going to be somewhere we can play maybe football games and soccer games. Where we're doing most of the digging, most of the work right now was all grass. A lot of people refer to it as goose drop field. Anyone who's thrown the javelin or discus for the track team or been a part of our baseball team understand that this field was bumpy, saturated with water whenever it rained, and then the last stage would be the geese. The goose poops are, abundant down there. Navigating around the goose poops was pretty much, what each athlete had to do if they were trying to participate in something down there. All of our athletic facilities, 21 years ago, were state of the art. We were ahead of the curve, but we hadn't done anything in 21 years. So this is going to put our softball team on campus for the first time ever. It's never happened before. Second, our baseball team, just last year, for the first 5 weeks of the season, they would have practiced 6 days a week. That's 30 practices. Of those 30 practices, they were only on their field here at the high school 4 or 5 times, which is ridiculous. So this will give them a leg up on their competition, get them on their own field right from the get as soon as the snow is cleared. Our youth sports that are also in softball and baseball will also now have 2 new facilities where we can use for them. They'll get second bite. The third bite of the apple would be for any adult team or maybe a club team that wanted to rent the facility if it was available. And that has a nice ancillary benefit because it's going to bring in some revenue for the town. But then the fall, we now have 1 more rectangular turf field to add to our inventory. So whether it's sub-varsity soccer or field hockey or football, we'll actually have another space to play right on campus. And last but not least, our band. Now our band, who practices on our football field regularly at night, they now have a facility that's going to be lined for football in the fall, where they can practice in the afternoons if they choose to. We're redoing our tennis courts completely. So our racket community, whether it's tennis or pickleball, they're going to have an additional place to play that's brand new. There were cracks and divots and weeds and all sorts of inconvenient things that were really prohibiting us from even being remotely proud of that facility. That's going to be completely brand new. And the last piece of the puzzle are the lights up on the upper turf. So grateful to our immediate neighbors who really worked with us and support the idea of putting lights up there. And that's going to allow us to finish field hockey games. JV field hockey is in the fall. They typically go after varsity. They'll have an opportunity now to finish their games versus in October, many of those games get cut short because there's no lights up top. I really believe this is going to benefit our high school community, not just our athletic community, but really the entire community. It's no secret that the public schools had some issues these last couple of years financially, and I really believe we're heading in the right direction. But I think as a result of that, we probably lost a lot of good students, a lot of good athletes to other communities. I think this improvement gives parents and students another reason to consider North Andover High School and why to stay. I think our, the content of our curriculum and everything else hasn't changed, and it's still a top level, but I think this gives us, a little bit more of a feather in our cap in a sense where we're putting money behind the experience for our student athletes. For me, one of the biggest things I'd love to share with the community is just how grateful I am, being a North Andover guy and having basically worked most of my adult life here for almost the last 30 years. I love this town, and I love when people come to our town and are jealous of what we have, or the people who live here are proud of what we have. I think this investment in our students and in our community is going to give another reason for people to be proud in North Andover.
On top of their new location, the Farmers Market has had another exciting development. They've been officially recognized as a nonprofit this year. We checked in with them to hear about how they give back to the community.
Well, today, as in every Sunday this summer, you are at the North Andover Farmers Market. We are a volunteer group. We put together this market and we run it June to usually October. And it's just a collection of local vendors and local food vendors and a little bit of a smattering of other things. So in the beginning, what we did was we partnered up with our local Merchants Association in an effort to bring more people to the downtown area here in North Andover. And that really was our number one goal. And so we tried to choose really local people, really local vendors, and do things to attract people downtown.
This is our first market, which we're really excited to be at, but farmers markets in general are just always a really great vibe. It's family, it's music, it's fun, good food, excellent options, and of course everything local, so we love that.
Luna May Creations has been here for at least the last two to three seasons, I believe. So we're veterans to the farmers market here in North Andover. Check out everybody's tent because everybody has something different, and enjoy the outdoors with, the community.
Oh, I just, of course, think it's always important to support local businesses, small businesses like myself. It's just nice to have that for people trying to, make something on their own. And it's nice to have the community support, everybody come down and do that and support each other. I know that we have a lot of good vendors here today, and then they rotate. Some of us are here every other week, like myself, so there might be some new ones next week. We're here all the way until the end of the fall, I believe, so that's good. Plenty of time to stop by.
People are really nice. It's a good location. A lot of people come out, so it's pretty busy. It just brings people together, supports small businesses. It's really fun.
There's so many great vendors. Everybody is polite and friendly. I just think it's a wonderful way to get out, bring the family, and there's so many amazing things you can get here. Our community is amazing, and for the 13 years that I've lived here, I've found that people like to get to know each other, and coming to the North Andover Farm Market is the perfect way to do that.
If you ever want to see really cute dogs, this is the place to go.
The also really new thing for us is we are officially a nonprofit. We just were recognized as a 501c3, which was a big deal for us because most farmer markets aren't allowed that designation. And the reason that we are is because we have gone outside of ourselves to take whatever profits we have or have generated and to hand it out dealing with food insecurity in the local community. And we've done that since the gas explosions, through COVID. We actually give out coupons to the veteran services and the social services within the town hall. There have been ample opportunities, particularly through the gas crisis and the gas explosions and all that, and also through COVID, where people really needed the help. So those are kind of wonderful things that we're able to do. My favorite thing about the farmers market is the group that I work with, the group of volunteers. It's just a small core group. It's about 6 of us. We're always looking for someone else to join, but it's a really great group, and we have a good time, and we get to do something that we all like. What the community needs to know about the farmers market is we really are here for them. Our mission is the same today as it was in 2017. We want to bring people into the downtown of North Andover.
Here at North Andover Cam, one of our goals is to teach viewers like you how to make TV yourself, which is why we air journal updates and segments produced by volunteers. We're news for North Andover by North Andover. You can make a segment on almost anything you want, from local history documentaries to news and event spotlights. I started out here at North Andover Cam as a volunteer and made a short documentary on the history of the quarry on Sharpness Pond Road, something that I was fascinated with in high school, as we always had some legends about it. Let's take a peek at that first project. Maybe it'll inspire you to come in and make your own.
Throughout the 60s, missile defense was a really big topic. This concept of intercontinental ballistic missiles came about. These things could launch from anywhere in the world, and come down basically with no warning and nuke another country. The Sentinel system was what the Army came up with and decided to implement in 1967. About a dozen sites in the United States would be composed of a giant radar system, and other sites fire nuclear missiles at the nuclear missiles and blast them out of the sky. It sounds crazy, and it was considered crazy at the time. North Andover was chosen as the site of Sentinel's first perimeter acquisition radar. It was nice and isolated, it was already mostly a state forest area, and it had nice access from Route 114. And this would have just been staring at the horizon, waiting for Russian or Chinese missiles to kind of appear out of nowhere, and at a moment's notice would have sent a signal to missile silos nearby. North Andover's counterpart site was planned to be in Camp Curtis Guild in Reading, and this is where the defensive nuclear missiles would have been stored in missile silos. It would have been like a permanent Army installation in North Andover. We would have had troops around town. There would have been barracks here. If this hadn't been canceled, this building probably would have been built within a year or two. It was considered an urgent matter.
North Andover was a much more rural town. I counted, when we moved to town in 1958, there were about 11 farms in town. We were interested and wary, I guess. We had friends who were quite anxious. The People for Peace people were really not pleased with it at all. All the towns, cities seemed to think that they were going to get an atomic bomb. The word from the government was you should build bomb shelters. And so we had two neighbors who about that time built their houses, and in the basement there are bomb shelters. I can't remember that we thought nothing bad would happen, or there was not much you could do about it. Nobody really thought the whole thing through. I mean, so you're sitting in your bomb shelter, and you've got food for a few weeks, and presumably the air isn't so contaminated that you can't breathe it. But then, what if your neighbors come and want to share your food? Or what do you do about neighbors? That kind of thing. People didn't really, but nevertheless, they're protecting their own families. Building that road was controversial. The whole thing seemed like it would be incredibly disruptive. Out where all the farms are, they're going to put this big hole in the ground. Some people worried we'd become a target.
They also had an informational meeting at the North Andover High School in the fall of 1968. Interestingly, there really wasn't a very big opposition to the work being done in North Andover at that time. Now, all of that changed when they had the informational meeting in Reading. Remember, this is where they were going to put actual missile silos, thousands of people turning out in a snowstorm, and coverage by local and national media, and some very heated discussions and opposition to the idea of putting missile defense in this area. You can imagine why people might be opposed to this. There's the safety issues, just the concept of having nukes stored near you, but also the idea that this could make the area a target. People started pulling politicians into this cause, and one of those politicians was Senator Kennedy. And this must have been quite effective, because within maybe like a month of Senator Kennedy becoming involved was the program put on hold and reevaluated by the new Nixon administration. And that essentially canceled the entire North Andover project, really less than a year after it started. There was this hope that this area could be turned into a state-of-the-art fancy recreation area by the state with some money from the federal government. And there were plans floated around for many years, but unfortunately nothing ever became of the plans. As soon as you leave the Army excavation site, it turns into beautiful New England forest land with rolling hills and hemlock trees and oak trees and wetlands and cedar swamps. It is actually really quite beautiful.
While we love putting this show together, it wouldn't be possible without the help of viewers like you. If you know of any stories around town that deserve to be heard, you can send them to us here at the Journal. Also, you can come in and create your own segments for the show, work behind the scenes in our control room, or get in front of the camera like me. Get in touch with us today by emailing thejournal@northandovercam.org or give us a call at 978-687-6570. And from all of us here at the Journal at North Andover Cam, thanks for watching.